US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has arrived in Istanbul, where Russia and Ukraine are holding their first direct peace talks in 3 years.
During his first official visit to Albania on Thursday, the British Prime Minister said the UK was in talks to set up return hubs with a number of countries.
US President Donald Trump has been welcomed in the United Arab Emirates in what is the final leg of his three-nation Middle East tour.
Canada's federal police have confirmed that 2 people were killed in the massive wildfires that broke out in the central province of Manitoba.
US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has arrived in Istanbul, where Russia and Ukraine are holding their first direct peace talks in 3 years. Hopes for a breakthrough remain low after Russian President Vladimir Putin rejected an offer to meet face-to-face with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In an interview last night, Rubio said a frank and direct conversation between Presidents Trump and Putin is the only way to end the war.
But I want to be frank, I don't think, we don't have high expectations of what will happen tomorrow. And frankly, at this point, I think it's abundantly clear that the only way we're going to have a breakthrough here is between President Trump and President Putin. It's going to require that level of engagement to have a breakthrough in this matter.
While few expected Putin to attend the talks, his absence dampened hopes for progress in ending Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Recent months have seen renewed diplomatic pressure from the Trump administration and Western European leaders.
Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius met with his British counterpart John Healey in Berlin to discuss ways to further support Ukraine. The meeting was the pair's first ministerial council since the signing of a military cooperation agreement last year. Russia's President Vladimir Putin and his snubbing of peace talks with Zelensky in Istanbul topped the agenda. Pistorius stressed the development could lead to a shift in Washington's approach to the war.
Wladimir Putin hat es in der Hand, den Krieg zu beenden. Er könnte nach Istanbul reisen und verhandeln. Er könnte eine Feuerpause anordnen. Nichts davon passiert. Das heißt, man könnte den Eindruck gewinnen, dass Putin hier den amerikanischen Präsidenten versucht, am Nasenring durch die Manege zu führen. Und ich bin mir ziemlich sicher, dass der amerikanische Präsident, dass ihm das nicht gefallen kann. Und das wird möglicherweise auch zu einer weiteren Änderung auf dem eingeschlagenen Weg in seinem Verhalten führen.
Healey added that Putin's absence exposed him on the global stage.
This is a day which exposes Putin for what he is. He says he wants peace, but he rejected a full ceasefire. He says he wants to end fighting, but he continues to strike and kill Ukrainian civilians and cities. And he says he wants to talk, but he doesn't even turn up to the very conference that he called for in Istanbul today. This is Putin's war. He could end it tomorrow.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the European Union's military committee has announced that the bloc plans to significantly boost ammunition deliveries to Ukraine.
The goal is to deliver 2 million rounds of heavy caliber ammunition to your country during the current year. So it's about doubling the amount of the last year.
The EU military chief says the bloc is trying to incentivize member states to procure and produce more heavy-caliber ammunition. The move aims to ensure Kyiv has sufficient resources to continue to fend off Russian attacks. Canada's federal police have confirmed that 2 people were killed on Thursday in the massive wildfire in the central Canadian province of Manitoba. The bodies of an adult man and woman were found near the small community of Lac-du-Bonnet. Police say the victims died after being trapped in a building by the fires. Officials say the fires in Manitoba, which broke out on Tuesday, remained out of control all of Wednesday and most of Thursday. Almost 24 fires were still raging across the eastern regions of the province, prompting the evacuation of almost 1,000 people. A state of emergency was declared in the eastern regions of the province by Manitoba Premier Wap Kinew. Kinew says the emergency order was to allow first responders to intensify firefighting, evacuation, and relief efforts in the affected areas. Officials are urging the public to exercise caution and abide by official notices and orders.
U.S. President Donald Trump landed in Abu Dhabi on Thursday for the final leg of his 4-day visit with Gulf allies. The president had a productive 24 hours in Doha, and his message to the world is that the United States is stronger than ever. He's also confident a deal with Iran could be reached, with Qatar leading negotiations between the two countries. On Thursday, President Trump met American troops at the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the largest U.S. military facility in the region. In a speech, the president said Qatar will invest $10 billion in the coming years to support the base. During a state dinner on the outskirts of Doha Wednesday night, Trump said he urgently wants to make a peace deal with Iran. He also praised Qatar's efforts for using its influence in what he called very serious negotiations. Trump echoed this sentiment at a business roundtable on Thursday.
Would like to see if we could solve the Iran problem in an intelligent way as opposed to a brutal way. There's only two, intelligent and brutal. Those are the two alternatives. I want them to succeed. I want them to end up being a great country.
In return, Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani asked the president to use American pressure to bring peace to Gaza.
Mr. President, your involvement could catalyze a breakthrough where others have stalled, but only if done in concert with serious partners. Qatar brings the channels, the access, and the credibility. The United States brings power, leverage, and global weight. If we act together, we have a real shot at ending the bloodshed and restoring regional confidence.
On Wednesday, the two leaders announced a series of economic and defense deals the White House said will, quote, generate an economic exchange worth at least $1.2 trillion. Upon arriving in Abu Dhabi, President Trump was met by UAE ruler Sheikh Mohammed Al Nahyan. He was given a traditional welcome similar to what we've seen in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. With 24 hours left on his GCC tour, the president seeks to boost the business deals he's already made. Adil Halim, Euronews, Doha.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Thursday announced plans for return hubs abroad for rejected asylum seekers awaiting deportation. Speaking in Albania, Starmer said talks are underway with unnamed countries, calling the hubs an important innovation. He ruled out Albania as a host, as Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama called this country's similar deal with Italy a one-off. However, reports suggest the UK is considering other Western Balkan countries.
Very much welcome, Prime Minister.
Starmer linked the plan to UK-Albanian cooperation, which he said cut Albanian small boat arrivals significantly. The scheme is part of new plans to cut migration, though Starmer denied it's a reaction to the rise of the far-right party, Reform UK. Unlike the old conservative Rwanda plan for offshore processing, these hubs target those whose asylum claims have failed.
As Portugal enters the final stretch of its electoral campaign, party supporters are visiting markets and holding rallies across the country to convince undecided voters ahead of the polls. The centre-right Democratic Alliance, AD of Prime Minister Luis Montenegro, has been reinforcing calls for a useful vote for AD, addressing voters who are tired of the frequency of elections. The Prime Minister accused the opposition of being a destructive majority that makes instability a way of life. Meanwhile, leader of the Liberals, Rui Rocha, appeared to be courting the idea of a possible post-election alliance with AD. On Thursday, he challenged PS Socialist Party's Pedro Nuno Santos to clarify whether the PS will be a collaborative force or a blocking force in the opposition. That is, if the AD party wins the elections and the Liberal initiative becomes part of the next government. Although the polls aren't favourable, Pedro Nuno Santos says he remains confident of a PS victory and believes that the Portuguese have lost confidence in AD. The Socialist Party leader only guarantees that he is available to dialogue and given to ensure political stability. As for André Ventura, the leader of the right-wing Chega Party remains on standby in the final days of the campaign after falling ill during a rally which forced him to spend Tuesday night at the hospital in Faro.
Mais de 330 mil pessoas inscreveram-se para votar antecipadamente no domingo passado. Os restantes portugueses deverão votar já este domingo, 18 de maio. Joana Marão Carvalho para a Euronews em Santarém.
The International Criminal Court is under fire and under pressure. Since US President Donald Trump imposed sanctions on its chief prosecutor Karim Khan in February, the Hague-based court has reportedly struggled to operate. Khan has lost access to his email and bank accounts. American staffers have been warned they could be arrested if they return home. Some human rights groups won't even respond to the court's emails. The sanctions came after ICC judges issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. They're accused of possible war crimes in Gaza, charges Israel denies. Trump called the court's actions illegitimate. His executive order bans Khan from US soil and threatens penalties for anyone who provides him with financial, material, or technological support. The sanctions are freezing not just finances but investigations, including a major genocide probe in Sudan. Staffers say sanctions have made it difficult to conduct basic tasks, let alone seek justice for victims of war crimes. The fate of the court's operation is in jeopardy amid waning support from traditionally staunch allies.